All right, it's 3 on Friday the 13th. And speaking of that, I posted a story that we read in class that sort of fits with the theme. It's a little bit scary. Nobody pulls out a chainsaw or anything like that, but I do like it. And if you're interested, you can check that out. It's unconnected to any assignment or anything like that. Maybe in October we'll get some more spooky stuff. Now, you still have the assignment that I posted earlier in the week, and it says it's due next time, where you have half the assignment being questions about the story we read, 6 Days in Glorious Vienna, and then half about brainstorming for your story that we're going to start next time. The questions are sort of about how the author sprinkles in the info when we need it. You could just start off with a list. You know how, like, sometimes if you're reading a fantasy book like Lord of the Rings, it just says, here's a map, here's a list of the people, just like all of it up front. And you might need that if you're doing something big and complicated. But if it's a small amount of characters in present day, then you can usually just get to the point and mix in what you need. So for this story, we know the narrator is Japanese, and later we learn her age and slightly a bit about her job and so on. That's kind of all we need. And the old woman, similar stuff. Then later, once we see what happens at the end, we realize that some of that was more important than we thought. Some of that was foreshadowing to the key to the end. But at the time, in the beginning, it was just flavor. It was just like, oh, this is why she's nervous. This is why she needs help. And things like that. So when you write your story, there's going to be elements of that. Speaking of, let's look at the questions for you. When you think of a character, you can start with a visual. You could start with a name. You could start with all kinds of things. But what the reader needs to know is, what do they want? What's their thing? What's their goal? And that gives the reader something to care about. If they get closer to their goal, we can feel good. If they get farther, we can feel bad. But if they're just kind of hanging around, we don't know what the value is, good or bad, or scary or not, or funny or not, or whatever. But they try to get this thing, and there are problems. Maybe they run into competition or obstacles or weather or society or their own personality getting in the way, all kinds of stuff. And things escalate to respond as it goes, bigger and bigger until something changes. And then the final question said, oh, now that you've decided what happens at the end, how might you go back and foreshadow that if you were going to write the beginning? You might come up with some ideas for this and then immediately throw them out and do something different next time. That's okay, but it's good practice. Next time, there's going to be an assignment that's like a beefed up version of this, where it says, hey, come up with an idea, maybe this one again if you like it, or maybe a new one. And it's going to have a checklist of, like, here's the key stuff you need in the beginning, here's the key stuff you need in the middle, and the end. And it's all like the plot and character stuff that determines what happens and who's going in what direction and why and that kind of thing. Later, when you actually write it, that's when it comes to the style, what kind of descriptions you do you have it fast-paced or slow or whatever. And then the next class, after the outline, there's going to be an assignment that says, write the first paragraph of your story. And that's where you take your info, give us sort of the key stuff early on, maybe tell us about your main character, or maybe the second character, maybe tell us right away what they want, or maybe you save it a little bit later. And once you get the first paragraph, some of you guys will be ready to do the first 10, and you'll be on a roll, and some won't, but that's okay. So over the next few days, we'll get started on your story with an idea, make it solid, get it started. And if you don't have one yet, you could start thinking about it over the weekend. Today, I might add in some grades in the gradebook later, and I definitely will send an email to all the students and parents saying, hey, here's all the basic stuff you need to know with the Google Classroom code and the video stuff and the Google Drive ways that we're organizing all this, because I still have a few people who I haven't talked to, who haven't been in the room, or who haven't joined the classroom, and I don't want to keep it that way any longer than we have to. So there you go. Every day I'll post a video, sometimes short ones like this where I'm just recapping, other times longer where we'll read something aloud or post examples, or maybe when we're doing stories, put one on the screen and go through it step by step and say how I might edit things. Thanks.